I mean, you were looking for one more fireworks before the fireworks on New Year's Eve, and
Sure.
this just in, Kirby Smart and them dogs did not disappoint. We told you it was going to be a lot to a little. I'm not going to lie.
We didn't
I
see
didn't.
that coming.
I
No.
didn't think it was going to be that
No.
lot to that little. We're going to talk about what it means for this year to cap off the season, as well as looking forward to next year. Next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He is Clint. I am Daniel. Thanks for making us your first, well, probably not your first listen of the day because it's Saturday night. We're back out here. You boys back out here on a Saturday night. It feels good to do one more overreaction show. Let's change the background and make sure the people know that it's overreaction time. 63-3. It's the largest margin of victory in the history of the bowls. So that's significant to some.
Have the bowls been going on for a while, Daniel?
They've been going on for a hot minute or two, and 60-point margin of victory. Listen, this wasn't a real Florida State team. We told you that on Friday.
We did.
We knew that going in. But if you think for 1 second that my boy Clint and I are going to get on here and whine about not making the playoff and whine about how Florida State didn't have its all full roster, and we're not going to enjoy the heck out of a 13-1 season where Georgia wins its final game of the year against the Florida State Seminoles 63-3, you got another thought coming, my friend. So before we get into the game, and I'm going to let Clint decide where we start, because there's a lot of options.
There's a lot.
Well, let Clint decide where we start. Before we get into any of that, I do need to address a serious problem. It's an epidemic. Gurus and insiders have been telling us about it for months now. As the playoff expands, Clint, more and more people are going to sit out these games. And Georgia's not immune from it because Carson Beck opted out of the second half of this football game. He did not. He said, I'm sorry, coach, my future is too valuable. And so I'm just not going to play any snaps in the second half. It's Georgia had its players. Florida State didn't have its players. And it showed on the field. But Clint, where do you want to take us to begin?
I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna come hot and heavy. Second segment. My heart has been stolen. The love of my life is now re-entered, and
here we go.
I'm embracing.
It's overreaction time, friends. If you're new, you'll catch on. You'll catch on quick.
No,
I'm gonna say some things.
This is reactionary, not over because my heart has been stolen to a freshman linebacker. We're gonna get
ready to say things. I'm ready to say things.
Okay, good. But let's start here. It kind of goes what you were saying, Daniel. The epidemic of people opting out and Georgia being full strength and Florida State not being full strength. Well, let me just talk about a couple things. One, Florida State has had good recruiting classes. They reside in the state of Florida, which has a lot of 5- and 4-star kids.
Yeah.
Norvell's a good coach. No shade towards him. He is a good coach. He coached well the entire year.
He is.
Okay.
He's a good coach.
So let's say hypothetically that Georgia didn't have its starters from top to bottom on both sides of the ball playing against Florida State. Let's just say hypothetically.
Let's say hypothetically you wiped out the entire first string.
Well, what if I was to tell you that happened and we still
in the second half of the game?
In the second half of the game,
and we pitched a shutout.
Pitched a shutout and put 30 more on top of that. Dome. See, Daniel, this is where I want to start. The depth at Georgia and these transfer portal kids. Look, JDJ, Brock Vandegrift, all the rest of them. Okay, this is life. We're not. This is not crying over spilled milk. This is not sour grapes. This is not even silver lining in the clouds. Top to bottom, Georgia's roster is filled to the brim.
Yeah, it's
with talent everywhere.
It's better. It's just better than everyone else's roster.
It's just better
Yeah,
from top to
right.
bottom. Every position they get developed. There's 4 and 5 star kids all over the place. We saw Gabe Harris all of a sudden. Daniel,
Hello.
we saw guys. Christian Miller wasn't playing in this game, so we thought, oh no, now we got to go deep down into that defense.
Oh, we're
Didn't
fine down there.
matter.
We're fine down there.
Didn't matter.
Clint, can we talk about the running game, the running backs? Can we talk about Kendall Milton for a second? Can we talk about Kendall Milton for 1 second, please?
I've never said a bad thing about Kendall Milton in my life. Just
No, you
let the
haven't.
record state.
No, you haven't. But somehow you still owe him an apology after that performance.
Oh my gosh. Kendall Milton, if healthy his entire career at Georgia, Daniel, records would have been threatened.
He's going to kill it in the NFL. He absolutely is. And Daijun Edwards ain't far behind him. Those two tonight were spectacular. Now, I know Florida's defensive front, again, decimated. I thought the offensive line played really well. I thought Xavier Truss played great. All 5, all the way across. And then you get into the second string. Dylan Fairchild comes in. Monroe Freeling comes in. I thought all the way around the offensive line played great. There were massive holes. I'm talking about washes on whole sides of the line of scrimmage where guys are just getting flooded down the field. But we saw some running from Kendall Milton in the first quarter that it made you feel some things. And then, Clint, while we're talking about the running game, while we're here, in the fourth quarter, third, we saw Roderick Robinson come in the game. And he did a few things that made you think, oh, now hold everything. Let's all just slow down about next year's running back depth chart pecking order. This backfield, losing Kendall Milton and Daijun Edwards, 2 phenomenally talented running backs. This backfield next year is absolutely poised to be devastating to defenses that Georgia faces.
Kendall Milton looked for in the draft process at the combine to show out and get on a team.
He's going to kill it.
And he is going to absolutely. You need a physical back? Sure. You need a speed back? Sure. You need a guy who can put some forearm into somebody else and shiver him off? Sure. You need a guy. Pick up blitz. There was a run, Daniel, that he got. He is not a skinny man. Okay.
No.
There was a run that he got wafer thin coming through that hole. And the video that the game had, perfect shot of him.
He came in like this, and then he went like this, and he just...
Oh, my gosh, guys. The running back room is fine. We are RBU, and turns out that Roderick next year,
he gonna
from
be fine.
snap 1 is going to be fine. We got lots to talk about. I'm going to gush second segment. Third segment, we're going to talk about Carson Beck coming back and how all of a sudden, look into next year. Bring it on. Who you got?
No, that's good.
I will take them. We're going to talk about that. But first, these. These are, in fact, eBay Motors. ebaymotors.com. The right part, the right fit, the right price. Every single time. It's like if you had a stable of cars in a garage or a stable of running backs in a backfield. And you just got to pick garage 1, garage 2, garage 3. It doesn't matter. Roll them out because they're going to be just fine. They're going to work fine. They're going to run and operate perfectly. eBay Motors is making sure that your cars do the exact same in your garage.
That's right.
Right now, put your year, make, model into my garage. Go on eBay, peruse parts, whether it be oil filters, performance parts, exterior, interior performance, whatever you need, the right part, the right fit, the right price. And if you do put your make, model, year into it, eBay will say, hey, that's guaranteed to fit. If it doesn't, they're going to get you money back. They're going to take care of you. Love it. It's for U.S. customers only. ebaymotors.com. The right part, the right fit, the right price, every single time.
So what you're saying in that ad read, basically, Clint, if I hear you correctly, is that Dell McGee is the Jay Leno of running back coaches.
He just has a garage, and it's just as far as the eye can see.
And he says, which one today? Which one shall I go with today? Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to give you the floor here. But then I'm going to chime in. I have some things I would like to say.
I'm going to start with the stir stick of this defense for next year, for this game and for next year.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the guy who is physically talented, who a couple of times, even in this game, blew a couple of assignments. There was a couple of pass plays in which the tight end leaked out, running back got out, lost in coverage. But if you don't understand that a full offseason for CJ Allen, sucking up next to Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart and learning this defense, being entrusted, let me be clear and specific. There is a reason JDJ is now playing at Kentucky.
Can I real quick, because this is my chime in, and then I'm going to kick it back to you. First of all, two things can be true at the same time, listeners.
Famous for saying it.
Thing number one, JDJ, go be great.
Yes.
Nothing but love for you, excited for you, go be great. This in no way should a disparaging word be said about him.
Nope.
Let me instead just state a simple fact.
Please do.
He didn't leave.
No.
He got run off. And the person that run him off was CJ Allen. Like it's not, it was a forced exit, if you will.
I don't know how to say this. I want to say with all due respect, and normally that means I'm about to disrespect you, but it's true. With all due respect, we are upgrading at linebacker next year from day one.
Yeah, and this is JDJ is a guy who has performed incredibly well for 2 straight years for the Georgia Bulldogs, and that's still true.
It is.
CJ Allen, according to this coaching staff, now again, it's not my opinion, and it's not your opinion that matters.
No
one cares what you think about Mike Bobo. More people care what I think about Mike Bobo just based on sheer numbers, but still, in the grand scheme of things, no one cares what I think about Mike Bobo.
No.
It's what Kirby Smart thinks about guys like CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson, and he likes them quite a bit.
These are still, after all, collegiate athletes on scholarship, the top cream of the crust, all the way across America, play at Florida State, SEC, Clemson. These are cool. And CJ Allen hit fools so hard, they were bouncing backwards, shedding blocks, sacking, rushing the passer, tackling in the open field, running downhill with a clean lane. This man is a heat-seeking missile, and he ran JDJ off. I am in love with our linebacking core for next year all of a sudden, because you're going to give me a full season. This man is a bona fide, true as true can get freshman, thrust into opportunity. He made the most of it. Next year, Daniel, the sky's the limit for this kid. The sky is the limit for this kid.
He's got some things to learn. He's got some things to clean up. And there's nobody better in America to help him do that than the 3 guys that are in charge of this defense. I'm going to move into the secondary. I'm going to talk about number 1, Dalen Everett. Go get you some. Go get you one, Dalen Everett.
Why don't you? State, we have never said anything bad about Dalen. Oh, shoot.
Go get you one. Thing number 2, Daniel Harris plays the whole game today.
Yep.
I thought plays pretty dang well. There was a long catch, a big pass play that led to Florida State's only points in the first quarter. Let me be clear about this. That was not Daniel Harris's fault. He was in perfect position. That was a perfectly thrown ball and an insane catch.
Ask any defensive coordinator. You literally, a perfect pass cannot be defended no matter what you do.
You love the position that he was in, though, on that deep ball, Clint. Daniel Harris, by the way, 10 minutes prior to the recording of this episode, he goes ahead and puts out there on Twitter, you may have thought my name was in the transfer portal. You might want to take that back because I'm not going anywhere. I'm all dog. I'm coming back. You love to see that. By the way, Julian Humphrey also announces he's coming back to the University of Georgia. All of a sudden, the cornerback position, which looked to be decimated.
It did.
Now, not only do you have very talented freshmen coming in, and you have very talented freshmen coming in, but you've got a whole game worth of experience for Daniel Harris, which he played really well, a whole season's worth of experience for Dalen Everett, And Julian Humphrey, obviously injured late in the year, but played great when we saw him as well. Exciting things at the cornerback position. And while we're in the defensive backfield, listen, I don't know if it's the last time we'll ever see him in red and black, but let's just take a moment and Javon Bullard and Malachi Starks. I know he's coming back.
He's coming back.
And Kamari Lassiter and Tyke Smith, like these guys. Georgia's defensive backfield has been fantastic this year, and especially a guy like Javon Bullard. It just cannot be overstated what he's done for this program. Obviously, he's not announced a decision at the time of this recording, but can't be overstated what he's done. If he decides to go to the NFL, will leave as one of the most beloved Georgia Bulldogs of all time in my mind.
100%. They got some decisions, and they're gonna. What it tells me, decisions were not made. Daniel, this much I know. Decisions were not made. How can I tell? Safeties are not transferring out of Georgia. Like at the cornerback position is very evident. Like at the linebacker position, it was very evident. Like you have at the end of year review for your job, and the boss comes in and lets you know. The end of the year review for a couple of these guys was not favorable, and Kirby Smart and staff made decisions on who they were looking forward to next year. That's been decided. Okay.
Yep.
You can see it on the offensive side of the ball as well. We're going to get into the wide receiver, the young wide receivers here in a moment, because my goodness, Carson Beck got some just dudes.
I'm going to talk about a not young wide receiver, and y'all better be ready for it.
So Indy Review came back, and they said, here are the guys we're going with. You not work your butt off. Come in the offseason. You got some work to do, though. Again, Kirby Smart and staff have not been anything but upfront and consistent with these kids because they want the best for them. They said, here's what you got to do in the offseason. If you can't do that, you're going to have a tough sled ahead of you. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for this amount of weight gain, this amount of reps, this amount of gain, this whatever it is. Here's what we're going to need. Safety position had nobody leaving, had nobody coming in as of yet. And right now, those guys played as much as they could in the game, which means decisions are yet to be made. End of the year review came back and said, you guys are it. We love you all. It's fantastic. What do you want to do? And they said, Coach, we don't know. We're going to go through the draft process. We're going to make some decisions then. And then we're going to let you know. And Coach said, yes, we're game. We're here for it. If they come back, holy jeez. Daniel. Holy jeez.
The culture in Athens is as good as you could ever want it. And again, we could spend all offseason talking about it. Was this season a disappointment for the Georgia Bulldogs? Absolutely. Yes, it was. Absolutely. Yes, it was. It was its national championship or bust. It's certainly college football playoff or bust. And this was a disappointing season. We had a tough loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game. The way that the draw shook out, the way that the teams, unfolded, most every other year of the college football playoff, this Georgia team still makes the playoff. Yep. But this year they just happened to, there was an unfavorable draw. There was a lot of teams that had good records, and so Georgia doesn't make it in. It's a disappointing season. But this team is just poised to not ever go anywhere. Anywhere, Georgia fans. And that's all you can ask for. You're not going to win the championship every year.
Nope.
But this Georgia team is as solid as it gets, and it starts with the biggest offseason decision, and that is from Carson Beck deciding he is coming back. And so let's move back to the offensive side of the ball in segment 3 for the 199 right after this.
But first, Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. You get a first deposit match up to $100.
$100?
You do Locked On College first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. It's pretty simple, Daniel. You pick the guys that you think are going to do well. That's it.
Okay, so Kendall Milton.
So Kendall Milton.
So
just him.
He's rushing against a completely decimated defensive front. And he's playing behind virtually his entire first-string offensive line except Amarius Mims.
Cool. So he's going to do really, really well.
He's going to do really well. And you know that. As a fan, you know that.
Just go in, and Prize Pick says, how about we give you 7 yards per carry? What if we were to say 7 over under 7 yards per carry? you would say, well, give me the
Well,
over.
that's an insanely high number. I would probably take the under. Just kidding. I'll take the over.
That's what Prize Picks is all about. It's daily fantasy made easy. Go over to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Promo code LockedOnCollege for first deposit match up to $100 right now.
Clint, we've got all year next year to talk about Carson Beck. So
Sure.
let's just say he's spectacular and he's real and he's spectacular. And that's really all that needs to be said about him at this point. You want to talk about some young receivers. Before you do, can I talk about the best receiver on Georgia's football team?
Go ahead.
His name's Dylan Bell.
That's it.
That's who he is. He's the number one next year. And if you don't think that's
But what
accurate?
about speedy, top flight, tall guys transferring in, Daniel? What about them?
Dylan Bell
Okay.
is the number one wide receiver on next year's team.
Okay. What about guys who are unproven, who are very, very talented, came in a couple years ago in this recruiting class, very speedy, very fast, highly recruited, highly evident guys?
Dylan Bell.
Okay. His name's still Bell.
He went up and he made that catch today on top of a man's head. He is as physical and as sure-handed as they come. He runs great routes. He's got great after the catch ability, but it's his physicality, Clint. It just jumps off the film as you watch it.
Yeah.
He's a bully at the wide receiver position.
I think at times we get very lazy with comparisons.
Okay.
But Daniel, the more that you just watch his physicality, the more that you just scream Deebo Samuel in the NFL, not Deebo Samuel at South Carolina, because he was wasted at South Carolina.
Well, he was at South Carolina.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. But you're talking about a dude who just wants the ball in whatever position, whatever area you want to give it to him. Contested catches over the middle, on the sideline, up in man coverage, zone coverage, taking a hit. It doesn't matter. He is a baller. He is stout. He can catch. His catch radius is bigger than his body. Like I know that doesn't make sense.
No, absolutely. Go gadget arms.
It just all of a sudden, if a ball's in the area, I have supreme confidence it's going to be brought down. Dylan Bell is the best receiving threat we have next year. Not even close.
Yeah, do not overlook him on this depth chart when you are thinking about next year's team, because that's a dude right there. Like he's not particularly athletic. He's not so that's why people are going to be like Deebo Samuel. That's a terrible comp, because Deebo Samuel, freak athlete, hyper fast, hyper quick, twitchy. Dylan Bell's none of those things. But do you know what he is? He's just fast enough. He's just stronger than everyone who lines up opposite him. He could just jump pretty high. He could just run pretty fast. He does everything, but he just does it really well.
Yes.
And Georgia and Mike Bobo are figuring out, you just getting the ball. You use this guy however you can to get the ball in his hands, and that's exactly what they're doing. I want to make one more statement, and then I'm going to let you talk about the young wide receivers. One in particular who I know you're gonna discuss. I want you to listen carefully, though, Georgia fans, because I don't want you to hear me saying something that I'm not saying, but I also want you to hear me say the thing that I do say.
Okay.
Brock Bowers, is the best player to ever play at Georgia that Georgia will not miss at all when he leaves.
That is two things true at the same time.
I'm not saying Oscar Delp is as good as Brock Bowers.
Nope.
That's not what I said. Don't try to play that soundbite back and act like that's what I said. It's not. Oscar Delp's not as good as Brock Bowers. But here's a simple fact.
Okay.
Oscar Delp is plenty dang good at football. Georgia is not going to miss Brock Bowers at all. And friends, that is insane. That's ridiculous that we would be so stacked at the wide receiver position or at the tight end position with Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky And by the way, Pierce Sperlin, who's a freaking antelope running down the sideline.
I know who Sperlin is. I know his height. I know his physical trait.
You didn't know his legs were that long. When he's striding down it looked like he was doing the triple jump for 20 yards down the sideline. It's like he was covering 9 yards per stride. Yeah. Georgia is not going to miss Brock Bowers at all. And guys, that's insane. That's how talented Oscar Delp and company are at tight end.
Okay, the two things I want to go. Anthony Evans is going to slot into this receiving core just perfectly, like just fine,
seamlessly.
If you want an actual Ladd McConkey type guy that's going to be closer to him, it's him.
It's always been him.
It's always been him. He's going to slot in perfectly in the system. We have the system. We have the guys who just go line shift every single time, and a number of guys come back. So he is him. I fully anticipate. But let me tell you something else that goes understated that I don't think, if you caught on, the broadcast had no clue because they thought he was in just for a little bit of the game. If you thought, no, we're gonna miss Amarius Mims so much next year, and we have no clue.
Yeah.
No, there's a true freshman Freeling who got to play this game for a majority of the game at right tackle, and
he got a little bit doing
just fine.
Admirable work.
Okay,
doing just fine.
Fairchild,
Ernest Green over there.
Ernest Green is okay.
He's fine.
But come back preseason, because I'm going to have a lot of things to say about Ernest Green, because there's been a run of left tackles at UGA that have been incredible. Yeah. Green may be ascending that list rather quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anthony Evans, I think, is going to be I think he gives me strong McCole Hardman vibes. McCole Hardman vibes.
That's a great one.
When he's in the game. How about the fact that Ladd McConkey played in this game? It's not going to get please talk to me about culture problems that your school is having.
Yes.
Because freaking Ladd McConkey went out and dressed out, suited up, and played in this game. Why? Why did he? We talked about this last week. Why would he do that?
I don't mean to be inarticulate, but what?
Why?
That's all I can say. When I saw him out there, I was like, no.
When you saw him going over the middle, catching balls over the middle, making guys miss, picking up first downs.
We're going to be asked, Daniel, you and I are going to be asked to go on NFL Draft.
That's right.
Podcast.
Locked On Giants. Patricia Traina. We're coming.
And I'm going to tell you, they're going to ask. They're going to say, hey, this draft class, there's Brock Bowers and there's Mims,
and Amarius Mims
and Bullard if he declares sure.
Yeah,
they're going to ask,
Lassiter,
who's the guy on this roster that's going to make an impact that nobody's talking about? And I will say, Ladd McConkey. Every single time. If you want an
I'll say Kendall Milton, you say Ladd.
I'll say Ladd, you say Kendall. And guys, this man, hey, this is overreaction, but not really, because we just reacted. We're fantastic. We're good. The future is bright.
Oh, we're good. We're fine. We'll be back on Monday discussing some things and all next week here on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. It's basketball season. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it.
Water's fine.
Come on in. The water's fine. But we got lots of football talk, basketball talk, all of it here for you on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. And we'll see you guys then.
See you.